The number one question I always get is, why did you become a therapist? Like, out of everything you could have done, why this? This has to be a heavy job. This has to be draining. And I always say that I'd say 99% of therapists become therapists because they went through something in their life that introduced them to therapy.
Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Regater, and today I'm joined by a licensed clinical social worker, Victoria Roman. In this episode, we explore how breaking the stigma around therapy can create stronger connections. Join us as we discuss the importance of therapists being relatable, the power of self-disclosure in building trust, and why shifting from technical terms to personal insights makes therapy more human and effective.
Victoria, thank you so much for joining me today. I am really excited for our conversation, but before we begin, I want to check in. How are you really?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to be here. Obviously, a little bit nervous. I've never done this before, but mostly excited. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, I'm so excited you're here. So I'm your first podcast?
You're my very first podcast.
Welcome.
I know. Thank you.
And for us. Well, I'm really excited to talk with you today because when we connected a few weeks ago, we connected and talked about something that I felt was so relevant to me and missing from so many conversations. And that's the why behind being a therapist, right? It's like getting ready to graduate. And so by the time this comes out, I will be graduated. But while we're recording, we're 1 month out, 1 month and 3 days. Who's counting? And there's been so many conversations or like discussions on, being a therapist means that you are, and it depends on what teacher you have. Older teachers tend to be, as a therapist, you are kind of like the stoic machine that sits there and disconnects from being a human, right? You're on that pedestal.
Right.
Person looks up to, and there's no room for your lived experience. Whereas there's other professors I've had who are like, be a human in the therapy room, but be careful how much you are of a human. And there's not really a full conversation on what that can look like. And this idea, I think when people, I'm rambling now, but when people go to therapy, I know one thing that I always say is I don't like when I feel like my therapist doesn't understand. Like they're just coming to things that they heard in a textbook. They don't have the lived experience. So something that was unique about both of us, which might not even be that unique. A lot of people may have and just not talk about it. It's coming from that place of being a human being in the therapy room.
Yes. So I am big on that. I know in school we learn about boundaries and containment, not showing much of a facial expression while listening to your clients. But I really do think it's important to kind of help your client to see that we're both humans. I'm not, any better than you or better at handling some situations than you are. It's just I've gotten the education and some life experiences that made me able to become a therapist. But I definitely think it's important to be able to have a dialogue with your clients and not just sharing skills and just nodding, smiling, or like you see on TV. How does that make you feel? All of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I had a client last week who I have a lot of adolescents. I work with the high school, and they're telling me about their parents' divorce and read to me like their journal. And then during it, they looked up and said, I'm sorry, this is a lot. And I was like, I had parents who divorced around this age too. I know it feels like a lot, but I totally hear what you're saying. Like, your emotions are not a lot right now. They make so much sense. And then, wait, really? Like, I can talk about this? This doesn't sound dramatic. And I'm like, no, I had so many similar thoughts in this.
And which makes you more relatable, empathetic. It makes someone feel like what they're feeling is valid and normal. And I totally get what you're saying because I get clients who start crying and they're like, I'm so sorry, I'm crying. And I'm like, this is your space. And you're going through a lot, and I'd be crying too if I were in your shoes. So it's just different to see that dynamic as well, of them just not feeling 100% certain they can even open up or show an emotion.
Exactly. A lot of times, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm in a space surrounded by people who all look like totally happy or totally neutral, I don't feel comfortable crying. I'm like, everyone's
No,
that's weird to be crying in this situation. So if now we're sitting in a room one on one and I'm like basically staring at you with no emotion and you start crying, like, of course it's going to feel uncomfortable. Of course, so many clients sit there and apologize, like, I'm so sorry. This is your space to cry. This is your space to be human. And we're here together as human beings.
right. No, I totally agree. I'm 100% with you on that.
It's so, I wish there were more conversations about this because I know starting out, I've been doing practicum for maybe like 8, 9 months now. And I know starting out, that was a big fear of mine was how do I balance like being myself? And I post all my stuff online too. So I know that I let my clients ask me a question at the end of every session. And it's solely because I know I look up my therapist, right? So I know
Oh,
they're
yeah,
me, you're Gen Z, Gen Alpha, you're going to look up your therapist online. We all do it.
of course.
I give them a chance to ask me questions so that kind of reclaims the narrative a bit. I can answer something if it's appropriate, and which it
Mm-hmm.
has been. And it lets them know like I'm also human and I've been through it and I'm still growing. And that's why I can be here with you along that growth journey because we learn as we grow.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, I myself have been in therapy on and off for years, and I've had a consistent therapist now for a few years, and I have definitely looked her up, and I've looked up other people who were possible therapists for me, and that really just told me a lot um, about them in the sense of, am I going to be comfortable around them? Do we have anything in common? Um, so we all do. We all do. We all look up people in our lives, especially when they're going to be such a big part of our life. I mean, being a therapist is weird. Like, you're a complete stranger and they're coming into your office. And my initial appointments, at least, I'm asking them a lot of background questions just to get a better picture of everything going on. And I tell them, like, this is awkward, right? I'm a complete stranger and I'm asking you some really deep personal questions. And so I get it that you might not be comfortable answering these right now. And if you have any questions for me along the way, like, ask me. I've just bombarded you with 60 minutes of questions. So please, like, ask me something in return. And if I can answer it, I will. And if I can't, I won't. So it's a weird field.
It is. And I think it gives you such a different perspective when you've been on the other side. You know what it's like to be
Mm-hmm.
in a room where you don't know this person at all and they start asking
Right.
personal questions. And you're obviously there for a very personal reason. And you're about
Mm-hmm.
to tell them your whole life story and answer all of these like very raw, vulnerable questions and not know how they're going to react. Like that's scary.
It's weird, right? It's scary. It can be exciting. It can be a little chaotic. And 9 times out of 10, I tell people, you might leave the session feeling worse, because you're going to tell me things that maybe you haven't wanted to think about or that you didn't actually think was affecting you so much. But yeah, you get that dynamic and hopefully make the person feel comfortable enough to be open and honest with you and build that relationship.
This is exactly why I know there used to be a requirement that while you were in your master's, you would have to go to therapy as well, but it's not a requirement anymore, at least in my school or my program, which I wish it was because it's such a unique experience to be on the opposite end of that and to see what it feels like to be asked those questions and their
Mhm.
to see when
Yeah.
it's okay to be human versus when do I not react? How do I show it on my face, my body language? What made me feel comfortable versus uncomfortable? But without that direct experience, and you're going based off a textbook, it's really difficult to differentiate.
It really is because, well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so therapy wasn't the primary focus of my program. Um, but a lot of my courses were around theories and approaches, things like that. And when you're in a therapy session, you are not going to be pulling out all of these therapy terms and jargons and, going back in your textbook and talking about certain theories and approaches. It's just not going to happen. And so you have to be able to connect. And I love that it used to be a requirement. I didn't know that. But I think if you're going to go into a profession, then you probably should have a personal experience of some kind with that too.
Yeah.
Just so, you know, you want to just be able to know how your clients are feeling on the opposite end.
Exactly. And I only know it because I actually read one of my textbooks this semester. Um, yeah. So I learned that. And I was like, wow, that's interesting because I wish that was the case. As someone who's been like you in and out of therapy for so many years, I often don't, I don't say I don't agree with textbooks, but a lot of times I don't agree with the way that they kind of do a treatment plan specifically based on just one modality. And it doesn't take into account any of the human experiences. It doesn't take into account the trauma that may have led up to the cognitive distortions. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
take into account always the family dynamics behind it. It doesn't take into account the current like political social climate. It doesn't take into account all of these external pieces that are impacting how you're going to present right now today. So I think textbooks are so great to learn, to have a guideline. But I think just being there in the therapy room and getting to see how it can play out when it's hopefully you get, I don't say hopefully you get a therapist that doesn't work for you, but I think that's where you learn the most, right? You learn
Yeah.
what I don't like and what I don't want to be for my client. How I don't want
Mm-hmm.
to see me. And maybe I should ask my client, like, is this working for you? Did you like this approach we took today? Do you feel like you're making progress? Being able to check in with them as well, because you'll
Mm-hmm.
your own therapy. I didn't feel like I was making progress, and this therapist never checked in with me. So you learn things as you go through it.
You really do. And that's one of the things I share with like prospective clients who call me for like a consult just to make sure we're a good fit before I have them come in and we go through the process. I always tell them at the end, like, shop around a bit. Don't, there's no pressure today to schedule with me or anything like that. Have your other consult calls, look up other people, make sure that you're, getting what you need and that the consult that you're having shows you kind of what you want or don't want in a therapist. So it's important to treat therapy and therapists like any other. Like you shop around for a hairstylist, you shop around for a nail tech. Like you need to be able to shop around a little bit for therapists too, because it is not a one size fits all. I am not for everybody, and that's totally fine because everybody has a different need.
Yeah. There is so I think I think it's difficult to find a therapist a lot of times. So then when someone finally finds one that's accepting new clients or that's on their insurance or that's in their area or that has appointments that like meet their schedule needs, whatever the like big thing that they're looking for is, they feel like, oh, I have to go with this person and then try if it doesn't fit, well, I'm broken because I found the perfect person for me and it didn't work, there's nothing left for me. And being able to change that mindset to one, learning what options there are out there. Because a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
people think, oh, I need a psychologist. And
Right.
they're great. Societies are great. LPCs, MFTs, LCSWs. There's so many different options, and it doesn't have to be looking for one specific thing, or it doesn't even have to be individual therapy. Maybe you're looking for group therapy. Maybe you're looking for an intensive outpatient or an inpatient or a residential. So many options out there, but when the conversations are kind of just find someone and try it, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I feel like it's very discouraging because there's a good chance the first person you I mean, in some instances it is the person you marry, but it's not statistically as likely to you marry, right? Your first friend statistically likely to be your best friend for the rest of your life. So as you grow, you need different people. You meet some people, they might work for a little bit and then not anymore, or they just might not be the right fit for you. But that's okay. And that happens with a therapist who's a human being and anyone else in the world who's a human being.
Right. Exactly. And like back to what you said about it being discouraging, also it takes so much courage to make that first step of even like looking up a therapist or, you know, clicking on the inquiry form. That alone takes so much courage to even acknowledge that you're ready to take that step. So you deserve to, you know, have some options and varieties. And I've had people who I've connected with and they're like, I really like your style. Unfortunately, your schedule doesn't match up. Can you help me find someone else? Of course. Like that's also part of being a therapist, being able to help connect them to other people so they don't feel so misguided or overwhelmed. Because that's the last thing they're coming to therapy for, not to be more stressed or overwhelmed. They need a little bit of help sometimes, as we all do.
That is so true. That's such another amazing point. A lot of times people are afraid to ask their therapist for a referral, but if your therapist is not a good fit for you, our goal, hopefully, our goal is to help you and be there for you. And if the right fit, I hope that we are able to help you, point you in a direction to maybe find someone that is. Doesn't mean someone in our network really is going to be the best fit, but hopefully we're there willing to try to help you find someone and guide you to someone that might be a better fit for you. And it's okay to ask your therapist. Thankfully, part of the job description is that we care. We have care. Hopefully we're nice. But we care. We want to be there for you. Our goal is to support you in the whatever manner.
Oh, everything you've said is just so spot on and true as a person who is in therapy and as a person who is a therapist.
And it's back to what you said too before, how much courage it takes to even go find a therapist, right? Being in and out of therapy for so long, being in a graduate program, going to practicum. I just moved out to California beginning of January. It took till February for me to actually go online and find a therapist because I was scared and I've been doing it for so long. And I know what questions I'm going to be asked, and yet it still feels terrifying. So if you even make the first step and go online and look, that's huge. Celebrate every small step you take to get into the therapy room where you find the person that's a good fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I moved from upstate New York. Now I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I moved this past July after being with my therapist for, God, I think it's been like 4 years or so. You know, just, and also, by the way, like therapy can be long-term. It doesn't mean you're going weekly for 4 years. It can be check-ins and maintenance and all of that. But she has helped me through so many different times in my life. And she has seen some of my hardest moments from before they started to the second they ended. And so for me, moving to a new state where she isn't licensed meant that I could not continue to work with her while I was here. And as a therapist, I know the importance of therapy, but it took me up until like last month to finally say, okay, I'm going to find a therapist here, because you do build such a trust and you do tell them so many things. And the last thing you want to do is rehash all of that. and have to relive all of those things. And you don't necessarily have to, depending on what you want to work on now versus, last year. But it's a lot. And so I can appreciate that for some people, the thought of getting into therapy or getting back into therapy sometimes just doesn't even seem worth it at times. Because I know personally, I was like, I do not want to go through all of my life history again. And thankfully, I found a person who was able to help me with what I'm dealing with now versus rehashing my whole life story. But yeah, so I hear you when you say that it took you some time, because I am in the same boat.
I love that you were able to find a therapist that's meeting you where you're at right now and focusing on the present. I talk about my mental health journey openly all the time. So I'm so okay with
which I love.
Yeah. However, I laugh a lot when I do it. I didn't realize that.
Mm.
Now, having a new therapist who makes me talk about it with her and I laugh, she looks at me, she's like, why are you laughing? Is this a defense mechanism? Can we try it with real emotion? I'm like, I'm out. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
you called out on different things that you just didn't realize you were doing, or that your former therapist might not have mentioned because it's been so long. And you're like, oh, that's why I'm doing this. I thought that I pulled one over on my other therapist, but nope, doesn't seem it.
I thought it was just funny. Apparently, it's a defense mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
Finding a new therapist may help you learn new things about yourself. But what was that moment where you were like, okay, maybe finding a new therapist is okay? Because I feel like you grieve the relationship with the therapist you had before. It's so hard to then, at least for me, I feel like I was grieving the loss of one therapist, trying to decide, do I really want another therapist?
Mm-hmm.
What was kind of that moment that you were like, you know what, maybe I will go back?
Yeah, I think that the moment for me was I was going through a lot of transitions and adjustments moving here, and I love it here. But that also meant that I was restarting parts of my business that I didn't foresee happening. And I realized that my body was so tense all of the time. It was like I was in a fight or flight stage constantly. And I'm like thinking about things. I'm like, well, I really love my life right now. Like nothing is bad or wrong, but I just feel it in my body. And so I ended up finding someone who does more of a holistic approach, who focuses more on the inner works in your body and how that manifests. So it's a bit of a different approach than my last therapist. It's a different approach actually than I've ever done. So it's brand new to me. But that was the moment I was like, okay, something has to change, because I cannot be this tense 24/7. And so I was like, oh. And also my old therapist said to me, like, you should find someone there who's, a holistic approach. And she encouraged it. So that felt good to hear from her too.
Yeah, it's amazing that she reinforced it,
Mm-hmm.
validated it. But also that mind-body connection, right? You were able to recognize, like, emotionally, I'm not registering it, but physically, I'm feeling tense. And maybe there's something I can do. A lot of times we don't put that connection together.
Right. I think a lot of the times people say, like, well, move your body, go exercise, go for a run, go, do whatever. And anybody who knows me knows that I am a non-athletic person. I am a supporter of athletics. There are a lot of run clubs here. I always say, I will meet you at wherever you go afterwards. I will cheer you on along the way. I will not be running to you though. So for me, it's like, I'm not going to be doing those things. And also that doesn't change the fact that I'm stressed, because stress is stress, no matter if it's coming from a good thing or, something we want to change. But I think to be able to understand exactly how your body is reacting things that we're holding on to, and just how our nervous system works and how our brain and even our gut, like it's just so interesting. Our mind is just so strong, and it can do so many things, and we just don't realize it until we are in the moment and finally ask for help.
Exactly. It's so integrated with our body. And I love the comment about running because everyone always says that. They're like, oh, just go for a run. And I walk a lot. And people are like, well, maybe if you ran, I'll run my mouth. I'll run my credit card. I am not running anything else. That's about it.
I hear you. I mean, I have a dog, so I walk my dog. But yeah, I've asked friends of mine here, like, why do you run? Because every time I see someone running, they look like they're in agony. They don't look very happy. And she's like, oh, it just clears my mind and I feel good afterwards. And I'm like, when I run, I'm thinking, like, not that I do, but when I've ran, all I'm thinking about is when the heck I can be done. Like, it does not clear my head at all. So yeah, again, not a one size fits all. I think that's amazing that so many people find that to be such a great outlet for them. But not for everyone.
Exactly. And that's the thing. A lot of times, I think a big issue with being online in today's world is people share, like, these are the go-to coping mechanisms, or these are the go-to self-care practices. This is how I healed my anxiety or my depression. And that may be very true for you.
Right.
It's not a like solidified limited list. These are what work.
Right.
That's so amazing. And it may work for other people. They may not. But it seems to be very like, do these 3 steps and you'll feel better. And if one of them's not for me, right off the bat.
Right.
If one of them's meditating, I've been trying so hard. Everyone tells me to do it. My thing, and everyone says, well, you don't have to turn off your mind if you're thinking of lists of things to do. Like that's my mind doesn't do that. My mind quiets and it's very dark. I haven't learned how to change that yet. Working on it so hard. My therapist really trying there. But that's not something that works yet for me. I hope it does. I would love to. Everyone talks so great about it. But when those are the things that are like, this is what you need to do, and that will make you feel better. And then you see it and you're like, but it doesn't work for me. It feels very discouraging. So I think one thing people take away, at the minimum, if you take one thing away from this conversation, is not a one size fits all, whether it's a therapy, coping skills, self-care practice, any of it, we're human, so it's all individualized to us.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons too, going back to what you said about like therapists should experience therapy once in their life. I am really big on never giving my clients something that I wouldn't do or haven't done. And I do think it's important to preface this all with, I never just start talking about my experiences or start offering up recommendations. I always tell whoever I'm working with right off the bat, I'm the type of person who may share some experiences with you. If you're okay with that and if it helps you, awesome. If you don't want that and it's not helpful, please tell me. You won't hurt my feelings at all. You'll never hurt, or you shouldn't worry about hurting your therapist's feelings. But and then I won't. So it's all about being able to communicate honestly with each other as well. Because the last thing I want to do is tell them something and they're sitting there like, well, yeah, woman, shut up. Like, stop telling me these things. But I always say, like, this is part of my style. Some people love it, some people don't. But if you don't, you have to be honest with me. So I don't continue to do it. And so that, again, like the boundaries there of not just offering up these things. And I will ask before I share too, right? Like, I'm going to share something personal. Is that okay with you? I think it would be helpful, but I want to make sure you're okay with it too. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, yes, please like, tell me something about yourself. Like, this will make me feel just so much better. And it does. So it's a balance. So and I tell them that too, because of course, that doesn't mean that I won't give them something that doesn't work for me. That just means that I've also tried that didn't work for me, but it's a really great skill or great tip that I believe in. I'm not going to just tell you to do something for busy work or give you a worksheet and send you off with it. I want to make sure that what I'm telling my clients is truly what I believe. And again, something that I have done myself or would do. So I think that just goes to show that, like, human piece of being a therapist. And the feedback I've received from that, one of my former clients back in New York said to me, that's what she said. She said, I really love that. Like, everything that you've offered me is something that you've shared, you've tried, or you've done. And I'm not telling them specifics, but I'm just saying I've used this skill, or I've done this, or I've read this book, whatever it is. But that was some of the feedback I'd received when I was back living in Rochester. So, which I love. That was like one of the coolest compliments, I think, as a therapist. So
It's so heartwarming too, because you really, it just shows how much you care. You've been through it, you're trying, you're learning, and you're making sure you're giving clients tools that you understand, right? How it feels to do that tool, because it does create a much better connection when you understand how it may feel. Because some tools may feel very scary, some worksheets may feel very, very overwhelming, and it seems so simple until you try to do it yourself. Recognizing that, or everyone recommends a book and then you read it, you're like, maybe not. Or everyone says the book is terrible and you read it and you're like, this is the best book ever. So
right.
able to recognize like what it felt like. I do that with books and podcasts, with two of my clients because they're into it. So I'd be like, recently I read this book and talked about this. Kind of sounds like something you're going to check it out, or we could talk more about it. And they liked it. I liked it. I was like, felt like a book club for a minute there. Right? So
Yeah, which is great.
a takeaway. Yeah.
Right. I love that, because I do similar things. If I think there is something that might help someone, I will suggest it, and they don't have to take it. They can tell me that, like, they can just say no thanks, and that's completely fine.
It is. The communication piece is the most important part. So the example I gave earlier about the client who came in talking about their feelings about their parents' divorce, after I shared mine, and at the end of the session, I was like, how did that feel to hear me have like a similar experience and relate to you? And I was like, is that something you want me to continue to do every once in a while if something really relates and you're kind of struggling to share the emotions? Like you feel like maybe it's not okay to share them, to relate it back. And they were like, yes, please, because I felt like I could talk about it and I didn't feel crazy. Versus when you have a lot of friends too around you who come from United Family Units, and then going through a really difficult divorce, your parents are going through divorce, and you're part of it, and no one understands. It's scary to then go into your therapist's office and talk about it, because what if they also don't understand because everyone else around me has said I'm dramatic? Is that what they're going to say too? So being able to just show I related, they liked, and I was like, thank goodness, because I wish that my therapist back then said she related too.
Yeah, I can say that I've been through some therapists who did not use those techniques, and they really made me feel uncomfortable, and I didn't return to them. My therapist that I'd been working with for years, we had built a relationship, but she was very forthcoming, and she's similar to my style, pretty blunt, tells it like it is, and which I needed. I needed to be challenged. And because she shared some of those things about herself with me, it also gave me hope too, because she had come out of her tough times, which meant that I was going to be okay as well. And I was, and I am, and that's great. But the number one question I always get is, why did you become a therapist? Like, out of everything you could have done, why this? This has to be a heavy job. This has to be draining. And I always say that I'd say 99% of therapists become therapists because they went through something in their life that introduced them to therapy. And I would stand by that comment that a lot of therapists go through therapy themselves, and that's how they learn that they love this field.
That is so true. They want to be, either they had a really great therapist and they're like, I want to be that for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And also great therapists are like, oh, I want to be that person that I wish I had. I feel like those are two very
Absolutely
experiences. And I just wish there was more conversation about this publicly for clients to know that we are human. We're learning too, we're going through it too, and we're here to help. And you're not alone. And nothing that you say is, I had one client who was really nervous to tell me something. And I still think we're like slowly getting to it. Not going to say that like I'm solve it. I was like, there's likely nothing you can say to me that I haven't experienced. Go for it. And then I got a little piece and I was like, continue the conversation. It was totally fine. I didn't react like they expected me to react. I will say, and I do say it sometimes, like with my podcast or going to conferences, I do tend to get everyone's stories. Like, I don't like everyone on earth, but I get a lot of different types of stories and a lot of different types of details. So I very much can say, for the most part, I've yet to have a client say something that I'm like, have not heard before and had to take it and process before. So I kind of, sometimes I tell them that too. I'm like, there's nothing you can say to me that I haven't heard before. And I genuinely mean it. I'm worried for the time that I'm wrong, but get there when we get there.
But there's nothing that they can say or you can say as a client in therapy that's going to shock your therapist. Yeah. Or at least I don't think so. I get all the time, this might be TMI, but, and I'm like, and I'll look at them and I'll just say, you're in therapy and nothing is TMI. This is what you're here for, to share these things that you don't feel you can share with other people because it's too much information. So I get that all the time. I'm like, nothing's going to surprise me. Trust me. And they don't, and they'll share it with me. And I'm like, I know dozens of people who feel the same way. And I'm like, really? And yeah. And so just being able to have them and hear that other people go through it, and it's the way that you feel about your therapist, you shouldn't have to worry about impressing them or hurting their feelings or doing things to please them. You're in therapy because it's about you. And so when you come into therapy, we want you to feel like you can just let go of whatever has been on your mind and speak freely. Because that's important. It really is, that you have that outlet. Even if you have a great support system at home, that's amazing. And you can have a different type of support system through therapy.
Yes, exactly. And that is so true, right? You can have, I feel like I had one client who was like, well, I have like a great family. I don't know why I feel this way. Like different types of support. Yeah. This is sometimes our brains just get upset and then we need someone to talk to. Sometimes we don't realize something that we took in. It can even be from like TV or social media, these things that we're taking in that can impact us. It doesn't mean that something has to be wrong within your family unit or within yourself to go to therapy. Sometimes you just need someone to talk about things to, and that's okay.
Yeah, I hear that all of the time. Well, I had a really great childhood. I have a really good relationship now with my family. I really shouldn't feel this way. There's really no reason. And I'll just say to them, like, depression, anxiety, stress, like, they don't discriminate. They don't care if you've had a great upbringing. They don't, sometimes these things pop up in us without us realizing that there was something that triggered it. And also, like, I have people who come in and they're like, I don't really have anything to talk about today. Nothing bad has happened. And I'm like, we can talk about the good stuff too. If I want to hear the good stuff, we don't have to talk about bad things all the time. We can talk about the good things too, and be a little bit proactive. So when you're doing good and you don't feel like you necessarily have something wrong, that you can learn skills so when those things do pop up, you're all set and you're prepared. So therapy can be for everybody, regardless of, your life experiences.
It really can. There's so many reasons to go to therapy. I think every single person should go to therapy at least once. I think it's so great.
I agree.
Right? It's so great to have someone to talk to, even if it is someone like celebrating the wins with you that maybe, I don't know, for me, sometimes I feel like, oh, these things that feel important to me, big to me, to other people are like, oh, well, of course you did. Right? So sometimes people in our lives, like they love us and they're so used to who we are and what we do that for them it doesn't feel so big because they weren't necessarily there through every moment that felt difficult.
Right.
Or having a therapist that will celebrate and honor it with you, right? Like sometimes you just need that piece too, that validation. I'll tell you, for me, it's school, right? I always come out doing well, but I'm always convinced the entire time that I'm failing. So there's so many breakdowns along the way. It's dramatic, but it's okay. I'll admit to it. That is me being me. But so my friends and family are like, well, of course it worked out fine. And I'm like, no, but I did it. Like, can we celebrate this? And they're like rolling their eyes. Not because they don't love me or don't care. It's just because like it's been so many years of it always being the exact same. But my therapist will sit there and be like, wait, that's so good. I'm proud of you. I know it was difficult for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you. Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. So sometimes it's just
right.
validation.
I know. And as I knew this podcast was coming up, and the first person that popped into my mind actually was my therapist at home. And I was like, I have to update her because we do check-ins. And when I'm home, like on, just visiting, I see her. I have a therapy session with her. And the person that popped in my head was like, oh my God, I have to text her, or I have to like call her and leave her a message or email her and just let her know that like I'm doing this because it's something that I'd talked about before, and I know she's going to be excited for me. So that's also so cool because it's just a connection with someone that is totally different than a connection with family and friends.
It really is. Oh, I love that. It's so amazing when you have a therapist who and feels like your cheerleader, right? That a lot of times I was so concerned that a therapist would see me as like, oh, she's broken and needs to be fixed, like that kind of mindset. And that's actually never been. I don't know where I got that from. Probably a stigma that gave me the idea.
I'm sure.
When I actually therapists who like make me feel good and excited when I tell them something that I've been working on or dreaming of doing, and then I finally do it. It's amazing when you have someone that feels like your cheerleader through all the bad moments and then all the good moments of growth too. They're there through all of it.
Absolutely. And a therapist who can also like tell you or feel comfortable telling you like their initial thoughts, right? Like just tell it, like I said, my therapist, she tells it like it is. And that made me so happy when I was going through certain things in my life. And she would look at me and she'd say, really? Like, these things, like, let's play it back. And like, we just had that relationship, which made me feel like it was okay to feel certain ways. And I knew that she wasn't just saying what I wanted to hear either. Like it was a trusted relationship, which is so important too, because I think some people think they come into therapy, the therapist is going to just agree with them or tell them what they want to hear. But when you can have that human relationship with your therapist, you'll see that like they're going to challenge you. They're going to tell you how they, how they're perceiving things to help challenge you to see it in a different light as well. And so I think that's awesome too.
Exactly. I love when my therapist is able to kind of call me out, but they do it in a way that feels so supportive too. Like calling me out when I'm talking about it, but I also don't feel embarrassed. Versus my teacher did the same thing. He made me do like he'd be the guinea pig for his showing how to do an intake. And then he called me out in a way that made me feel so like awkward. I was like, I'm sorry. But she made me feel like, oh, it's okay. Like this happened.
Yeah.
We'll learn to have real emotion behind it instead of putting up that wall. So therapists really, I don't know. I feel like I'm biased. We both might be a little biased, but
we probably are. We probably are, because I talk about these things, or I talk about therapy with my family, and they are so supportive of me and what I do. But ironically enough, none of them are in therapy. And if they have been, it was a short time. So I'm biased because I'll start talking about things and they'll, my dad will say, don't therapize me. Don't therapize me. And I'm like, I'm just talking. I'm just pointing little things out. Like it's not therapy, but yeah, it's just, as a therapist, I'm probably biased to how helpful it can be. So.
And I think my catchphrase, the most common thing I say is, my therapist said. I do that a lot. And I made a joke with my family that when I graduate, I'm going to take the DSM out and sit down with them and give them all their diagnoses.
Oh my gosh. You don't know how many times I hear, like, you would have a whole case with us. Like, or if I'm like out, the number one thing I hear from people, actually majority men, like if I'm dating or out on a date or something, is, are you analyzing me right now? Are you diagnosing me? Like, what do you think is wrong with me? And I'm like, first of all, I'm not working right now, and you might need a therapist, because I can be your therapist or I can be your date, but I can't be both, and I don't want both. That's a lot. So it's like, sometimes it can be hard to like turn off that therapy side to you, because we just have that energy. Like everyone seems to want to open up to us. Oh my gosh, I just have to tell you, I was getting a massage once. Treat yourself, get a massage, self-care. And I made the mistake of saying I was a therapist, because she's like, oh, what do you do for a living? And I told her. And honestly, I should have charged her, because she told me her whole life story. That now I jokingly say, I'm just going to tell people I'm a barista because it's a fun, light job, and nobody's going to ask me for a diagnosis at the end of it. So we're definitely biased people, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I learned that. Don't say that I'm in school to be a therapist. A lot of times I'm like, I don't have a job. I don't do anything. I just hang out. Yeah. I don't know.
I actually got a part-time job. It's like a floater at just a local bookshop, because I just love books. And I was like, this will separate the two things. So I can say, instead of I'm a therapist, oh, I work at a bookstore, and it's a good outlet too. But I just do that, for fun of it. But like you said, sometimes you don't want to have your therapy hat on, so you just say you do something else, and that takes some of the pressure off.
Yeah, exactly. And then one thing I've learned is it's so hard sometimes to not go into that mode when someone else is like, when my friends call me, they're like, I need your advice on something. A lot of times my language will start reverting as if I'm their therapist. And then they're like, you're such a good therapist. Like, but I'm not your therapist.
Exactly. I'll have friends ask me for like advice about what they should do in therapy. Like, is this a good technique? Should I be doing this approach? Should I be? And I'm like, I'm not your therapist. I don't know. Like, look into this. Here's some resources, but like, talk to your therapist. But it's like those videos that you see of like on TikTok, like, I'm a nurse and my friends all ask me what this diagnosis is. But I'm not that kind of nurse. Like, we don't know everything either. So I get that a lot. Like, what do you think is going on with my life? Like, what do you think I need to change? And I'm like, as a friend or as a therapist, which one do you want? Because they're going to be two very different responses. But usually they say both. So I'll switch. It'll be interchangeable sometimes.
My go-to now is Jess. I think you should get a therapist.
And that is a good response.
My solution for everything now is get a therapist. But you know what? I do that to my PA friend. I'll like have a cut and I'll send it to her. And I'm like, am I dying? She's like, put a Band-Aid on it. So I guess I do. But
we all do. I do it too. My best friend is an NP. And I'll say, like, I have this like bump on my neck or something like that. What's, like, am I okay? And she's like, I think so. Like, and I'm like, shouldn't you know this? You're a nurse. And she's like, I do hair transplants at a med spa. Like, I operate on that. I don't know what is going on with the bones and muscles in your neck. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's true. You don't study everything when you become a nurse. So I get it. I do it all the time.
It's so easy to fall into the trap, whether you are a therapist or not. So moral of the story is everyone go to therapy. But it's been really great talking with you, Victoria. Thank you so much for joining me as we are wrapping.
Thank you.
One last thing you'd like to leave our audience with?
One thing I want to leave the audience with. Probably, I would say, listen to your gut. You know yourself better than anyone, and you know what you need. So listen to your gut, speak up for yourself, advocate for your needs, and don't give up. Find a therapist if you need help. We are here for that.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.